Welcome to the Global Gaming Business Podcast, the industry's first and longest running podcast, now in our 19th year. This podcast is sponsored by IGB Live, the home of the iGaming community, July 16th through 19th at the Rye, Amsterdam. For more information, visit IGBLive.com. My guest today is Rob Norton, the president of Cordish Gaming. Rob, good to see you. We're here at the East Coast Gaming Congress. You just gave a presentation, and a little scary sometimes when you talk about the Eastern gambling market.
Yeah, no, first of all, thank you, Roger, for having me. It's great to be here. As you know, I grew up in Atlantic City and around this area, so always nice to come home and, you know, a little special on this particular visit for us.
Yeah,
so.
No question. And you know, we're going to honor your father. He was such a visionary in this industry, and rightly so. To be honored at such a stage.
Yeah, I think it's was a great opportunity, and the folks that run the East Coast Gaming Congress were unbelievably hospitable and suggesting that this is a good spot, and we love it. So thank them all.
Those guys go back as far as we do. So.
That's right.
So that's a great thing. So let's talk about Cordish. It's been a busy year. You've had a lot of things going on, and let's talk about the one. Let's start with the one in Louisiana, where you're taking over the former Diamond Jacks casino in Bossier City. There were a few organizations that went through their hands, and what did you see there that made it so attractive to Cordish?
So what's interesting is this is actually another story for me coming home. I was one of the original Isle of Capri properties back when I was with Isle, and I actually, after Hurricane Katrina, had an opportunity to live in that hotel that's there for about 6 months while the company was recovering after Katrina. So I knew the property, I knew the market very well. We knew the foundation gaming guys who were all ex Isle of Capri executives, and so we started talking about how we could work together on that opportunity. And you know, one thing led to another, and you know, at the same time, Texas Live in Arlington was starting to just take off, and the growth has been unbelievable. I hope you got to see that Super Bowl clip I guess it was World Series clip, right? Yeah. And so we started to recognize that the brand Live down there in the Dallas Fort Worth area is starting to get some real power, and we saw the opportunity to bring that into the western side of Louisiana and take advantage of what's great bones in the old Isle Diamond Jacks property.
Sure. So will this Live? Are you going to call it Live Bossier City, or
it's Live Louisiana? Okay,
Live. That's I like that alliteration there. Good. So is that going to have all the elements that a Live property has in Pennsylvania and Maryland?
Yeah, actually, the casino and the dining and entertainment will have a similar feel to our Philadelphia Live. Will be the first land-based casino in the market.
Right.
We will have exceptional dining and entertainment options. We're going to bring the PBR Cowboy Bar to Eastern Texas and Western Louisiana, and I think the idea is to bring the Cordish entertainment DNA into that Bossier City market, and you know, let's see how we do bringing some land-based casino vibe to the space.
Sure. So that's a very competitive market, however. I mean, you've got some really good operators in Bossier City and across the river in Shreveport. I mean, how are you going to try to gain market share there?
So, you know, listen, first of all, I think competition is so important. I think anytime you have competition, you strive to make your product better, your delivery better, and so, you know, we welcome the opportunity to compete against Caesars and Penn and the others that are there in the market. And you know, I think one thing that we do have is we have a very distinct DNA that the Live brand brings. And, you know, it's not going to be a snap of the finger and we're there. But we will, I think we'll be a formidable presence in the market pretty quickly because of our commitment to service and entertainment and how we do what we do.
Sure, absolutely. So you're hoping that connection with the Arlington Live will draw people from Texas. Obviously, the biggest market in Bossier City is from the Texans coming across the river there.
Yeah, I think Texas Live has been building the Live brand presence now for a number of years, and doing so in a fantastic way. when you mention Texas Live to anyone in that area, their eyes light up. Like,
Right,
is that
yeah.
what you're going to do? And so that's a great starting position to have. So yeah, we do think there's synergies there. We do expect to leverage the brand equity that our Texas Live operation has built, and see if we can bring some of that equity into Louisiana.
Sure. So the good news is Texas is the main market. The bad news is Texas is the main market because now they're considering legalizing gaming over there. Las Vegas Sands has already started a campaign. Are you worried about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think any time that you are in a market like Bossier City and that's counting on Tyler and other parts of Texas as part of their revenue stream, you have to be concerned. I do think, though, that there's a lot of complexity to get something through, and we'll be open in less than a year now, and so our goal is to focus on what we can control in front of us and to deliver the best experience that we can deliver. And we think if we do this, that the returns and the opportunity for a solid investment will play out just fine.
So they had a hotel there. How many rooms is that?
So it's about 570 rooms.
Okay, so it's a big hotel.
Yeah.
So are you redoing all the rooms?
Everyone.
Yeah. Okay.
And
so
the hotel,
basically, it'll be a brand new property then.
it's a brand new property. Even the garage is being completely repainted and redone. And so, although there was great bones, when you walk in there, you're not going to see anything that will remind you of Live or Diamond Jacks. It will be soup to nuts. It'll be across the board Live.
Sure. Okay. Great. Yeah, and your Philadelphia property is so great looking. If that's what you're modeling after.
Yeah, I think in many ways it's going to be a step up from Philly.
Sure. Right. Okay. Great. Yeah, you learned something in Philly. And
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. So last week you proposed a casino in Petersburg, Virginia. This is across the river from Richmond, where you had just lost out in the previous in their bid to get a casino there, which never happened. So, what did you learn in Richmond that you applied in Petersburg?
Well, I mean, I think listen, we're proud of what we had put forth in Richmond. We definitely thought that we had the best proposal, and we respect the city's decision, and they went forward with another operator, and unfortunately they were not able to pass the referendum twice.
Right.
Yeah. And the second time was even more convincing by tenfold the vote count that the first one was, as far in opposition. And so I think the state, rightfully so, after hearing from the constituents twice that they don't want a casino in Richmond, they decided to put forth legislation to move it to Petersburg. We are excited about the opportunity in Petersburg. We definitely have, without a doubt, the best site location. In our opinion, we have the best proposal in front of the state and the city to consider, but we're still not all the way there through the legislation. As of right now, April 17th, the state is in session now, dealing with the reenactment clause and the amendments from the governor, and so we'll learn a little bit later today whether or not we're able where the process is as far as moving forward in Petersburg. But left to the city and left to the voters, we feel very confident that we have a fantastic project for them.
And there will be another referendum in Petersburg then.
If the legislation is passed and the city makes their selection, there can be a referendum as early as this November.
Okay.
But still needs to be a bunch of things that happen for it to work out that way.
Okay.
IGB Live is the industry's favorite iGaming show, home to over 9,000 of the world's most influential and pioneering iGaming professionals. There is just no better place to connect with the entire iGaming ecosystem if you are looking to meet iGaming operators, affiliates, suppliers, and game developers. IGB Live is the place you need to be. Join us for the last ever IGB Live in Amsterdam before we move to London. For more information, visit igblive.com.
One of the things I found interesting is you're partnering with former NFL star Bruce Smith, the big Buffalo Bills star, and he also played for my Washington Redskins. So, and he played at Virginia Tech in college, so he has a connection to Virginia. Do you think that's going to help?
Well, listen, I've known Bruce now for probably 4 or 5 years. He was partnering with us in Richmond. He's been part of the team the whole way. I can tell you he's just an amazing man, incredibly shrewd and smart businessman, along with just a warmth and hospitality. So partnering him is an easy decision because he brings so much to the table. I think the hardest part is I'm a Miami Dolphins fan, and I watched all those hits against Dan Marino for the years, and that's hard to when I'm sitting down to dinner or having a drink with him. That's hard to forgive him for. But he's a great guy, and really as co-developer. He's a 50-50 partner in the deal and helping to develop and co-developing the deal. So we do think it adds tremendous power to the team, really, because he's a local Virginia resident, and he lives in Virginia today, and he's got a consortium of people that are part of his investment team there that are all Virginia residents, and really it's part of us ensuring that when we are moving forward, that Virginia's got a seat at the table in what's developed and how we operate.
It sounds like he's got a lot of business acumen as well as being a former football player.
Right, he definitely does. He is. We can use the pun. He is a force. Right.
No question. So. Also last year there was a move to legalize casino gaming in North Carolina. Almost happened, but not quite. Do you think that's going to come back at some point?
I don't know where things are going to go in North Carolina. They just launched sports betting digitally. They're still in the infancy of rolling that out. I think we'll see how things progress there, but it's not something that at this point we're putting wagers down on.
And now you have two tribes opposing it rather than just one. So, that's going to be a little difficult for sure. So let's talk about the casinos that are operating. And we mentioned Philadelphia, so let's start there. It's really doing gangbusters, and what a great location it is in the Stadium District in Philadelphia. I'm sure during the baseball playoffs last year, you did gangbusters during the NFL playoffs, and we're just entering into the NBA playoffs, which they didn't make, right? The Sixers, unfortunately, but it's a great location, and right off at 95 there. And I know Joe Billheimer's running it for you, a great operator. So, what's your expectation for that going forward?
So we are finally really starting to hit our stride in both of our Pennsylvania assets, but particularly Philadelphia, which got off to a little bit of a rocky start. Craig Clark and the team there running that property have been able to lean in on the entertainment and the DNA of our brand, and are starting to make real inroads. We're starting to see our market share grow. We're starting to see our penetration into the surrounding markets grow. And so a lot of good things moving in the right direction, and the complexity that is both the benefit and the challenges working in the stadiums. We're starting to get our arms around that whole complexity as well. So I think the sky's the limit for Philadelphia, and we will continue to see movement. I think our biggest hurdle, our biggest challenge or our threat in the Philadelphia market really is kind of the legislative uncertainty that occurs from time to time. In Pittsburgh, on the other side of the state, they came out of the gate hot, and they just have never looked back. And so we continue to see that, and we think there's opportunities to potentially grow that property in that market, but we'll see how things shake out in Harrisburg.
Sure. Yeah, and the Pittsburgh is a surprise to how well you're doing there.
I think we always thought it was a fantastic market, but I think it's exceeded our expectations.
Sure. And of course, your first casino, and I don't want to say your first casino because people tend to forget that you guys developed the Seminole Casino in Florida many years ago originally. So I don't want to say that's your first casino, but it's really your first modern casino now, and it's doing very well in Maryland. It's one of the leaders in the state in revenue, and the location again right next to the Anne Arundel Mall is fantastic. So how's that going?
Again, when we built the hotel expansion, the event center expansion, late 2018, moving into 19. The hall opened up, literally the month before COVID hit and shut us down. So, we had this window where we had all these new assets, but we really hadn't had them all ready and willing to contribute yet because of, and then when COVID came back, we came back in a diminished way because of the regulations and so last year in 2023, was really the first year where we got to see the entire operation running as it was contemplated from all the development, and it was a wow, wow.
Right.
And so 2024 we're getting to refine a little bit because we learned a lot in 2023. Sure. So, we're still seeing substantial growth in Maryland. I think we're going to have another fantastic year in Maryland. I think as long as we can manage not to hurt ourselves through risky real legislation in Maryland, we're going to see a very healthy growth in from that property as well.
Okay, great. So I just heard you talking in there about sports betting. We have online sports betting now in Maryland. I was surprised to hear you say that it really actually hurt your casino when the online element came on.
Yeah,
explain how that happened.
Yes. So in Maryland, when they passed the law, they did it in a way that the online took longer to launch than the bricks and mortar. So we were able to get the bricks and mortar sports betting up and running really quickly, and we had about a year head start where we had retail sports betting before digital sports betting started, and during that year. We saw unbelievable impact. There were lines, hundreds of people long every Sunday trying to make bets on football, and there were, we saw substantial revenue growth from sports betting. But as we had predicted and as we had been telling people, there was a lot of growth in table games and to a little bit lesser extent slots, but growth in both sides, poker as well, and. Food and beverage was up, and it really was a kind of across the board because it drove, on average across the state, somewhere like 7,000 additional people across the state on average a day.
Right. Yeah.
That came into the casinos, and those people, they bought a beer, they bought a burger.
Sure. Right.
They dropped $20 on the table games when they walked by,
Right.
and. We had predicted that, but there really wasn't a way to prove that because no one else had deployed it this way. Well, if you go study Maryland, it proved it out. It actually happened because what we were able to see is we were able to track those players that were playing sports betting back through our loyalty system and see that they really were crossing over and they were really doing those things. And then you flash forward a year later, digital comes online. And all of a sudden, sports betting in the retail environment is down 65% across the whole state. We're worse than that. Yeah. It's down 65% across the whole state, and that's really off the foot traffic. Footfall fell, and we declined in footfall. And for the first time in 10 years, excluding COVID, we saw table games revenue and slot revenue. Table games revenue decline and slot revenues go flat. We have been seeing unprecedented growth prior to that, and so. It definitely showed that there was when you had it in the retail environment, and then you went and brought in digital after the fact, that there was an exodus of visitation from the casino as a result of that.
Okay. So Maryland also this year considered adding iGaming to the mix, and you did that influence the way you thought whether you would support iGaming or not?
Yeah, it definitely was part of the influence. We looked at that, and we did our own studies across the country on the limited states that have added iGaming, and as we studied the iGaming market, again with no agenda, because we're in iGaming, we in Pennsylvania we opened iGaming I think before we opened the casinos.
Right. You did, yeah.
And so we have no agenda in the thought process, but as we studied it, we kept coming back to there was a clear cannibalization that was happening in the casinos. And when you start to think about the reasons why we do what we do, we create destinations that are centers for people to gather. We create community centers. We create opportunities for jobs and advancement and life-changing. And so we started to see that we think this type of business is detrimental to our core business, and the DNA and the reasons we do the core businesses are potentially at risk, and it made us concerned about whether the quick dollar was worth the grab versus staying the course on the long-term vision.
Okay, great. So another thing that may impact your revenues would be smoking ban. Now you operate a casino in Maryland where there's no indoor smoking, and a casino in Pennsylvania where they allow indoor smoking. As a former dealer, I'm a strong smoking ban advocate, just knowing the health impact that it has on employees. But there's a lot of studies now that show that it doesn't really impact. Not a lot of there's few studies that show it doesn't impact the revenue as much as it used to. Where are you going on that? If there is a smoking ban that implemented in Pennsylvania, do you have plans for that?
So, listen, this is such a tough conversation because I'm a non-smoker myself,
Right.
and so is everybody in my family, and so we definitely prefer non-smoking environments ourselves. However, there is still clear evidence that the smoking spaces in our casinos in Pennsylvania and our outdoor smoking patio in Maryland still outperform the non-smoking
Right,
spaces
sure.
pretty dramatically.
Right.
And so, if you were to take an approach where you let the people vote with their wallets,
Yeah.
capitalism at its finest, you would say don't kill the smoking in these spaces because
Right.
they're showing that that's where people want to spend their money. I think the biggest risk associated with where things are going is it's not whether it's a ban or not. We've been very successful in Maryland without a ban, but Maryland has no direct close access competition
Right.
that people can choose
Sure.
where
Right.
smoking is. So you either go to the casino with no smoking or you don't go to a casino, right? Because the closest casino that has smoking from our facility is over an hour away.
Yeah. Sure.
So I think in Philadelphia and maybe a little bit lesser extent, but even in Pittsburgh, the biggest concern is if Pennsylvania moves forward with smoking ban before New Jersey or
Right.
before the neighboring states, I think there is going to be a substantial loss. Now, if they somehow figure out how to all move together in
Right.
sync,
Sure.
you might be right that the impact will be less than what we might have thought
Right.
originally.
Well, Pennsylvania and New Jersey are really the only two states left on the East Coast that allow smoking.
Right.
So if they both go together, I think that would make
West
sense.
Virginia went back to it too, didn't
Did they?
they?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, that's possible too. So let's go back to the corporate culture. I know that the Cordish company, always had a great corporate culture with developing the live projects even before casinos. They developed, it's a family-owned company, and I think that's what makes it special. But how do you transfer that corporate culture when you open a new place like Louisiana or Virginia?
That is a great question, and it's actually one of the few things that keep me up at night when we start to develop these new projects, particularly as we move further and further away from our core center. And I think the answer is we pride ourselves on moving people up through the organization. So, as we move forward, you have to find leaders within our organization that are willing to move into these new markets, and they bring the history and the culture and
Right.
the attitude of the company with them. And then it's imperative on us to find people that match us,
Sure.
that live and have the right DNA to fit who we are,
Right.
as opposed to to hiring just strictly based on resume.
Right.
And we do a pretty good job of that. We
Yeah.
go out and we really, our interview process is, it's sometimes 8 hours, it's sometimes 16 hours,
Sure,
right?
right, yeah.
And you interview with everybody.
Yeah.
And everybody has a different thought and a different opinion of how you fit, and we listen to all of that before we make selections, particularly in the leadership role. So that's one of the biggest concerns I have, Roger.
Sure,
And we will work very, very hard to make sure that we stay true to our DNA.
Well, one of the things I always admired with the southern casinos is that they have that southern hospitality
Yeah.
built right into them. So I don't think you're going to have that problem in Bossier City.
No, I think that's a very, very good point. When you're in Louisiana, and I lived there for a number of years, the people are so wonderfully warm, and they are such a genuinely nice. And Bossier and Shreveport market, that market itself, we've been welcomed with open arms. So exactly what you're talking about,
Right.
the hospitality, it's there, and so it's really just getting the rest of our culture outside
Sure.
of that warmth
Right,
into
right.
into it, which it includes the competitive spirit and some of the other things that that we pride ourselves on.
Right. Okay. Well, I want to wrap it up by returning to your father, Steve Norton. Steve, he was one of my mentors early on. He taught me a lot about gaming. Whenever I had a question, I could call him up, and he talked to me for a half an hour. If I asked one question. But
if you got lucky, if it was only a half an hour.
Exactly. Right. Well, he was such a visionary. So and clearly from this interview, you're becoming a visionary in your own right. So how do you feel responsible for kind of carrying on that legacy?
Well, first of all, the fact that you mentioned me in the same sentence as far as the visionary aspect of my father, it might be the biggest compliment I've been paid. So I appreciate that. I had the opportunity as a kid, when I was in high school, to work with my father and understand how he looked at new markets, and he brought out his green bars that he used to do his market studies on, which is amazing because he was doing what we now do on our gravity models. Yeah. He did by hand when he was looking at these new markets. And one of my best memories is of kind of me understanding the business. What my father did is when he was looking at expanding into states down the riverboat market, and he handed me all his green bars and said, "There's got to be a better way now." And he asked me to write my first program in the gaming industry at 17, which was a gravity model based upon his green bars, and it was such an awesome learning experience. So, I don't think I can try to live up to what my father has done. I think for me, it's just doing what I do, being the man that he raised me to be, and doing it with a company that fits the vision and the ethics and the environment in which I truly believe in. And I think the Cordish Companies is all that. My father introduced me to David, and that's how I got the job with the Cordish Companies way back when. And so, he knew the company was the right fit for me. And, so I listen. I'm actually getting a little choked up thinking, talking about this, but. He's going to be missed, and I appreciate you bringing that up.
Well, another aspect that just occurred to me when he kind of semi-retired. Of course, he never retired, but he was probably the first one to do gaming news story aggregations, because you used to get a huge email from him every day with links to gaming news stories, and that was something that before any of these other sites ever came out with, I kept on getting his emails.
That's right. I remember that. And there's Michael Pollock. Some of the folks that have been around and know my father for a long period of time, sent us testimonial videos that were just so moving. And Michael Pollock said something in his testimonial that couldn't be more true for me and he said, if it wasn't for folks like Steve Norton, there'd be many of us today living a very, very different life than what we're able to enjoy by having the expansion in gaming that we've been able to ride. And I am absolutely at the top of that list. Without him, I'd be teaching tennis at a country club somewhere or doing something like that. Right.
Great. Well, I'm glad we're going to get to honor him here at the East Coast Gaming Congress, and congratulations on all you've accomplished at Cordish Gaming, and you've got a lot of still to accomplish, and we'll check back with you after the Petersburg and the Louisiana one opens up.
Thank you, Roger. It's always a pleasure.
Great. Thank you.
Hope you enjoyed this week's podcast, sponsored by IGB Live, the home of the iGaming community, July 16th through 19th at Rye, Amsterdam. For more information, visit igblive.com. To learn more about the topics we discussed today, visit ggbmagazine.com. Subscribe to GGB News to get all the news of the gaming industry delivered to your desktop every Monday morning. Sign up at ggbnews.com and use the coupon code GGB180 for a free subscription. Don't miss a single episode of the podcast. Subscribe on Amazon, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify today. So we'll see you next time on the GGB Podcast.